Good morning. On the you guys before 11. Um, Yesterday was actually, believe it or not, I mean, this is a 21st century murder trial. It's about data and technology, and you know, we don't necessarily need to know. Yeah, there's a weapon and all that, which we know exists. But it's this guy laying out their entire strategy and their plotting and the supposed code that Mr. Turner and uh, Lorenzen Wright's ex-wife talked in. Um, can you guys hear me all right? Hmm. Is it better right now, you guys? Okay, I'm gonna try this now. Is this better? Oh, all right. Well, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the defense does today. But it looked like they were chomping at the bit. So, happy St. Patrick's Day, and I will be back hopefully by about 11:30, 11:45 to be back in the office. I can try to get some stuff set up and fixed. I put it on Law and Crime because they're live right now. If I can get the ABC 24 set up to work when I get back, I'll hook that up instead.
Before he is submitted for cross-examination. Deputies, I'm sorry, let me give them a chance to get the camera set up. Yes, sir. Thought we were doing that already. Yes, but tell us you're the lineup, please, sir. Tell them we're getting ready to start. That's it. Jury, please, sir. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone can be seated. Mr. Jury, good morning. How's everyone doing this morning? How are your accommodations? Food still digestible? Deputies treating you well? Good. Thank you for your patience this morning. Sergeant Dennis Evans Jr. You can come forward, please, sir. Come up to where Deputy Smith is. Let him hold that folder for you for seconds. A new day, so I got to swear you in again. Your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. You have the longest back. Have a seat here, please, sir. Watch yourself, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we're finished yesterday. The state had submitted Sergeant Evans for cross-examination. And Mr. John Keith Herrick, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Evans. Yesterday, I had a chance to do a brief board diary, and I just asked you a question about, I think, where you were working or how long you had worked. And I forget the exact question, but
Okay.
I'm going to ask it again in a different way. You work for the Memphis Police Department.
Yes,
correct?
sir, I do.
And you have worked for the Memphis Police Department for, I think, the last 20 years at least.
Yes, sir.
What year did you first get hired with MPD?
July 2001.
And were you hired as a patrolman or what?
Yes, sir. I was hired as a patrolman.
And at some point, you shifted focus to digital forensics.
Yes, sir.
At what point was that?
So actually, about 2005 or 6, I got put on what at that point was considered called the CAT unit. From the CAT unit, I actually went to the PSN, which is Project Safe Neighborhoods. That was about 07. And that's when I started doing cell phone stuff, started looking at actual records, working wiretaps. So at that point is when I actually started analyzing call detail records. And so from there, it just transitioned into wiretapping from 2008 to about 2010 or 11. As far as phones themselves, we didn't start doing that until about 2015 or 16 when we opened up the original digital forensics unit at our real-time crime center.
And the CAT unit, just for the sake of it, is that an acronym?
Yes, sir.
What's
It's
that?
Criminal Apprehension Team.
And you have, I think, prior to being a part of digital forensics, you testified, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
And you would testify in court, usually on behalf of law enforcement, right?
Yes, sir.
And since then, you ended up being certified by Wright, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think according to your testimony yesterday, now do you have the highest certification that you can have with Wright?
No, sir, I don't. They have multiple levels.
Right. I think they have 4 levels, or is it 2 or 3?
I'd have to go back and look. I know we're certified. It's called CCO, which is a certified operator, and CCPA, which is the physical analyzer. So the operator allows you to extract the data, and then the analyzer allows you or teaches you how to analyze what was extracted.
And you learn how to extract the data
Both. Yes,
initially, right?
Yes, sir.
And from that, you then learn the analysis portion.
Yes, sir. It's a 1-week course.
So in order to do what you testified about yesterday from an expert standpoint, the certification of it would be pretty much at week course.
Yes,
Correct? All right. So for that 1 week, did they go through testifying and things like that? How do you come to court and address the jury? Did they do any of that
They just talk about how you present the findings
to the jury?
to other law enforcement and to the DA's office.
And you did that course back during 2010, 2008, when?
No, sir. I didn't do that course until 2016.
So at the time that this would have been going on, you were not certified as a digital analyst, cell phone analyst back in 2010, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said that you went through the course in 2016, which would have been around the time that Operation Rebound started.
Yes, sir.
And at the time that Operation Rebound started, you went through that course. Did they give you a certificate or anything along those lines?
They did.
And you have that certification. And since that time, which would have been approximately 6 years, more or less, give or take, you've testified how many times for defense?
For the defense?
Yes.
None.
All right. And how many times have you testified for the Memphis Police Department or for the DA's office?
I don't know the exact number. It would have to be, it's a handful of times.
When you say a handful, maybe 20, you think?
I would think more like 5 to 10.
5 to 10 times you've testified as an expert in court regarding the digital analysis, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've had this file for how long?
Which file you're referring to?
Operation Rebound, the Lorenzen Wright murder case. How long have you had that file?
Since 2016 or 17 when we started it.
All right. And I received the report that the jury received on what day? Well, that's a bad question. You wouldn't know when I received it. What day did you give it to Mr. Haggard?
2 days ago, he asked me for it.
All right, 2 days ago on this report that you were generating and that you worked on for over 6 years, 5 years, 6 years.
That's right. There are various obligations with Operation Rebound.
I understand that. But I'm
As far
talking
as
about,
what's on the screen, yes, sir. They asked me to put together a presentation of an overview of the call records, an overview of the cell phone analysis, and an overview. They asked me to add in the Facebook stuff and what's in the report.
right, and it's a good PowerPoint, but it was prepared and finalized 2 days ago.
Yes, sir.
You did the analysis, did you? I mean, you provided, I guess, information regarding the analysis. Now, you don't go out on behalf of Verizon or AT&T or C-Spire and calibrate these machines or calibrate any of these mechanisms, correct?
No, sir.
And in fact, did you ever at any point do what's called peer review of your analysis in your report? Did you get anybody outside of the Memphis Police Department to look at your work and say this analysis is correct, or this analysis is good, or this analysis is flawed? Did you have a peer review person?
No, sir.
Bullet lady came in yesterday and she showed how the bullets work and how the mechanisms work. Did you have any sort of a model regarding how these cell towers work to show the jury? A cell tower that you were describing yesterday, I think throughout the city, how many cell towers would you say there are?
Oh, there are hundreds.
All right. And there are hundreds throughout the city, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did give, I think you talked about the face of the tower going this way and the face of the tower, some facing east, some facing north, et cetera, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you have never had a job with AT&T, Verizon, or anything like that that matches longitudes, latitudes, that goes into the inner workings of those towers, right?
No, sir, I have not.
Now, you said that you've testified a handful of times, and you put that at around 6.
As far as
More or
for
less.
two different things. You're asking about cell phone records, or
Yes.
you're asking
Only.
about cell phone exams and dumps. The two different avenues.
Testifying similar to what you testified to as an expert yesterday with the court tendered you asked.
Yes, sir. It'd be only a handful of 5 or 6. We haven't had a lot of trials in the last 2 years.
I got you. And in this particular case, you spoke about your Cellbrite certification. Have you had any Cellbrite certification renewal courses within the last 5 or 6 years?
Yes, sir. I just got renewed this past year.
All right. And that renewal process from that week-long course is approximately how long?
It's another 4 to 6 hour class that they teach online, and then we take a test.
Okay, so you read it online and you have to answer questions though, right?
Yes, sir.
Back in 2010, at the beginning of this particular case, do you remember what unit you would have been in back in July of 2010?
I was assigned to the undercover unit.
And so you would not have been responsible for gathering certain reports regarding certain towers.
No, sir. Not on this case.
And during that same time frame, you would not have, of course, been responsible for seeing whether or not there were any cell tower activity around the apartment that Mr. Wright had in Atlanta. Or not the apartment, I'm sorry, the townhouse that Mr. Wright had in Atlanta.
In 2010?
Yes.
No, sir.
And through the report, sometimes it's referred to as an apartment, but it seems like more like a townhouse. And when I say a townhouse, you know what I'm referring to.
Yes, sir. I did.
From the photos and everything. But you
I
didn't
haven't seen those photos, but
gather-
I know the townhouse.
You didn't gather any of those photos or anything like that.
Oh, no, sir.
Did you go to Atlanta?
No, sir.
You focused on a 2-day or 3-day window as far as the actual tower activity, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember exactly what those couple of days would have been as far as the tower activity?
For this report, yes, sir, it was July 18th and 19th, and then moving forward to the 20th, 21st of
Now-
2010.
At the time that the case would have taken place, it would have been possible to gather activity farther back for a window of time, maybe a month. This way and a month the other way, correct?
You're referring to call detail record?
Yes.
Yes, sir. At the time.
Now you got the call detail records from from Mr. Turner, right?
Yes, sir.
And or from his carrier, ceasefire.
Yes, sir.
You also got the AT&T records regarding Ms. Wright, correct? You also got records regarding Edna J, correct?
Yes, sir. These records were provided to me.
Did you ask for, after reviewing the records at any point, to get the records of a Merle Hampton?
No, sir, I was not.
And you saw in one sector of your report, the name Merle Hampton appears, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, and I know that you had never worked for a cell phone company specifically. You worked mostly with the MPD. We look like we might be the same age, you might be younger. But so I'm assuming the majority of your adult work life has been with MPD, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it has.
And when you describe the phone mechanism and how it works as it relates to cell towers, you didn't explain, I don't think from what I was writing, I was trying to write fast, you didn't explain how the actual cell phone mechanism works.
No, sir, we didn't go into that detail.
Person has a phone, what you can see on the outside of the phone, that doesn't have anything to do with the information that the tower is receiving or bouncing one way or the other, correct?
But you're asking on the outside of the phone?
On the outside of the phone, the shell casing, I guess we'll start with.
No, sir, it doesn't.
All right. Now, once you get on the inside of the phone, there are some mechanisms that I think the cell tower is reading, correct?
It's reading an antenna? Yes, sir.
What is the antenna reading coming from the actual phone? What sends the data to the phone? I mean, to the tower.
So the tower itself is sending out the radio wave. The radio wave is connected to the antenna and it's going back. So it's connecting that way.
And it's only the antenna, right? Like a chip wouldn't change that one way or other. If I switch chips with Mr. Hagerman, that doesn't, and I go down Poplar, that wouldn't change anything about what cell phone data from 901-496-666, that wouldn't change anything, would it, if he and I exchanged cell phone chips?
Are you saying chip or are you referring to the SIM card?
SIM card,
Okay.
or SIM chip, that was whatever.
Okay, so a SIM card is what connects the cell phone to the actual carrier into that network. And yes, sir, if you were to change your SIM card out with Mr. Hagerman, and you got Mr. Hagerman's SIM card to put it in your phone, that your phone would then, once it connects to the tower, would show a different IMEI number, which we talked about yesterday. That's the serial number to the phones. It would show a different phone number. That would be the phone number that now you're using off that SIM card to connect to that network.
And if Mr. Hagerman has my SIM card or SIM chip, he drives to Batesville today, and his phone pings, whose phone number going to, let's just say mine is AT&T, and the number is 496-1111. Where would 496-1111 show on my record as pinging?
So you're saying that you've now given your SIM card to Mr. Hagerman, correct?
Yes,
He is now driven to Batesville
yes, sir.
and connected and using, it's going to show up his phone, his IMEI number and his call records will show that that number or that device was using that tower.
So it would show,
It would show the phone that he has with the SIM card in it connected to that tower.
right. So if somebody says, where is John Perry on St. Patrick's Day, 2022, and Paul Hagerman is sitting at my favorite restaurant in Batesville, Mississippi, eating, would it show that John Perry is here, or would it show that John Perry is in Batesville eating at his favorite restaurant off the square?
If you switch SIM cards,
Yes.
it's going to show that device is down in Batesville if the device is being used.
Now, yesterday when you were testifying about Jay's whereabouts on the night in question, you said that Jay was in Batesville and he's moving, right?
Yes, sir.
But you never said that Jay's phone was in Batesville, apparently moving to Sardis at some point or anything like that, right?
We're referring to the device itself was connecting to towers that were in Batesville. Yes, sir.
Right. So just for clarity's sake, you're not saying that you know where Jay Martin was on that night, right?
No, sir, I'm not.
And you're not saying that you know whether or not Jay Martin was in Batesville or was driving to Sardis or manipulating the phone with someone in Batesville or Sardis on that night.
Based on the records we have, all we can tell you is that the device was using towers that were in Batesville.
The device, right? And there's no way that you could testify about who used a payphone in Batesville, whether or not it's a friend, a girlfriend, or one of the guys or persons who was referred to as helping him throw this party, were in Batesville.
No, sir, there's no address to know, for me to testify to that.
You didn't search Merle Hampton, right? The name.
No, sir.
Was Merle Hampton anywhere in the phone records that you saw?
For Mr. Turner,
Yes.
it was in there multiple times, yes, sir.
Right.
The name.
Right. Was there an irony to the fact that when Sherra Wright would call, that it seemed that Merle Hampton would call? Did you notice that? You said yesterday there's 140 some odd calls between Sherra and Billy Turner, right? You got
It's 186, yes, sir.
right. Out of those 186, did you bother to number how many seem to be more than that? You said 45 seconds. I guess this is actually, it could be up to a minute and 15 seconds, I think, right? That is nobody answering. Is that not true, depending on the mechanism and the call?
Yes, sir. The standard we use is anywhere between 45 seconds to a minute.
Right. And the majority of those were not anybody answering from Mr. Turner, correct?
We looked at the call records, which ones you're referring to. I'm not sure which ones you're referring to.
May I approach you?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Which ones are we?
All right. Let's start at the first page.
Okay.
The first page is July, I believe, is it not?
Yes, sir. It starts with July 5th.
Now, you would have gathered these and sent these, I believe, to Mr. Hagerman. He forwarded them to me.
Yes, sir. I was provided these and then they were provided to him. Yes,
All
sir.
right. The very first call is a no subscriber, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then there's a call that's incoming, correct?
Yes, sir, there is.
Now that 901-239-3322, do you know whose phone number that is?
The 239-3322 is Mr. Turner.
All right. And on that day, there appears to be a call. Do you see the duration?
Yes, sir, I do.
And how long is that duration?
43 seconds.
All right. And so that would be indicative that no answer, right?
Yes, sir. It could be no answer. It could be yes, sir.
And then there's an outgoing to the sheriff number of 901-552-6252, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And was that one answered?
It shows 28 seconds.
All right. And in fact, I got two calls that way that's not an answer, right?
Yes, sir. They're back to back.
And then another one that's no answer, correct?
It's only 29 seconds.
All right. And then if you go, let's go farther down that page.
Yes, sir.
You see Merle Hampton in calling again at 12:14:48.
Yes, sir, I do.
And that one seemed to be a 3-minute incoming call, correct?
That is correct.
Now, it doesn't tell you who other than the name Earl Hampton, but do you know what address that number corresponds to? Did you get any of that information?
What, the cell tower?
No. That just the address. Like when you pay your phone bill, there'll be an address connected to the phone sometimes.
For Mr. Turner?
No. For this Earl Hampton number.
No, sir. I did not research that.
Okay.
Let me stop you for 1 second. Did you answer questions to what page you might be on? What you and Sergeant Evans is looking at, is that in Exhibit 70 or is that some other document?
These are the complete records for that month. And what I can do is at this time, I'll ask the board. These are records provided through Discovery.
Yes, sir.
And if I can have the deputy approach you, and I'll ask him the predicate questions to ask you to be introducing the evidence. Mr. Hagerman might give you.
We have no objection.
It'll be, I don't know what the number is.
It's exhibit number 71. And this is, sorry, that was what?
So these are cell phone records. This is actually not the raw data. This is
Yes, sir.
This is the cell phone records for Mr. Turner. And these records were entered into one of our software programs called PinLink. And this is a printout from PinLink of the records from July 5th, 2010, with the last record being August 5th, 2010.
And these are cell phone records of Mr. Billy Turner, is that correct?
Yes, sir, they are.
For the record, this is exhibit number 71, a document described by Sergeant Evans, roughly, again, just guessing, about 25 pages or so. Cell phone records from July 5th, 2010 to August 5th, 2010. Billy Turner cell phone records, July 5 through August 5, 2010. I think everyone else try to follow along with this, Deputy Smith.
Yeah, is there a way, and I guess we can take a pause, this is the only document like this that we need copies of.
It's just, you don't mind sitting there for a moment? Call according to recess. I go and collect these copies. Got a copy machine. The copies real quickly. It should take about 3 minutes. Everyone can remain seated.
We'll stand as a recess.
75. Actually, you have it right here. Okay. I'm good. Yes, sir. Apologies to the jury, it's a little bit longer than I thought. I thought it was about 25 pages, actually 41 pages. So it's about 700 pages that it had to copy, so that's why it took a little longer. Mr. Perry, you may proceed.
Let's go back to the first page real quick for a second.
Yes, sir.
When you receive these, you have at the top, or receive these from whomever provides them for you. And once again, who provides this type of document to you for the analysis? Does it come from another agency or entity within the Memphis Police Department, or how do you receive this report?
No, sir. In 2010 is when they obtained the raw data from the cell carrier.
I got you.
Then I was provided that as part of a case packet or an investigation packet. That data was presented to us or given to me. It comes from the cell phone carrier in an Excel document. We would then take the Excel document and we would ingest that or upload it into our software tool, which is Pinlink. And where this report was generated was from Pinlink. So what we're looking at here is what was ingested into the software, and then the software, they printed out a copy of this report.
And if you'll go through the columns with me, the target, that tells you the number that of the person who you're trying to inquire about.
Yes, sir. That would be so we got the records from Mr. Turner, which is the 901-239-3322. So in our system, when we ingest it, we create a case, we then we auto load the records in. Doing that, it generates the target because that's our target number. That's whose record we're basing this report on.
And what's the next column?
So it's direction. So that would be if the call is incoming or outgoing. So an incoming call would be someone calling Mr. Turner. An outgoing call would be Mr. Turner calling someone else.
And the call status completed, what does that mean?
So that just means that a call was made. It doesn't necessarily mean it was answered or not answered. It just means that a voice call was transmitted through their network.
And like you said yesterday, sometimes they're under 45 seconds being a marking point, but that's just what you all use. It could be actually a little bit more or less if it's an unanswered call. In other words, you call me and my phone is on silent, I don't know it, or what have you, that you call, it could be a minute and a half before I know that you actually called. But something longer than that indicates that we're talking and having a conversation.
Yes, sir. It could go both ways. I could call you and we could talk for less than 30 seconds. We don't need to talk long. Or I could call you and you don't answer it. That's just an indication of the duration of the call. The standard that we use in training is anything less than 45 seconds is typically not an answered call.
Now, the duration, of course, is what you just kind of described. The beginning location, is that different sectors, et cetera?
No, sir. The way this report's reading, so this is not the raw data. This is something that I didn't actually create this report. So the way this report was created is it's telling you the tower information. So that's the tower number that they're referring to.
Okay.
And so that's what it's referring to.
And based on your experience, 106 is where?
We'd have to pull it up, but it's going to be it's in Memphis. I believe 106 is actually going to be the tower that's actually close to the homicide scene, if I recall.
Right. And that's coming from a rural Hampton, correct?
That shows that if we're looking at line number 2, is that what you're referring to?
Correct.
So yes, sir. Under dialed name. So to describe to the jury though, we don't get the names from the raw data. We just get cell phone numbers. So those numbers have to be researched. They have to be put through either police databases and researched. They have to be actually do a separate warrant or court order to reach out and get the subscriber information for that number. So that information is put in by an investigator who researched that phone number and then added that as the dialed name in the system. So That, and the system, yes, sir, that shows is that.
And once you come down, down halfway down the page, you see that name again. Well, more than, I guess that's 3/4 of the way down.
At 1214?
At 1214, and then you have it at 1215 also, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And it seems like the numbers of the duration of call almost seems identical. It's 308 and then 304, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that's from a sector 106.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. Let's turn a few pages. Let's get the second page into the third page. You see that name again?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right, and what column do you see that name in? Or what row? Would you say that's the third row?
I would refer to date and time. You have the date of July 5th, 2010 at 22:24.
Is that called incoming?
At 22:24, yes, sir, it's an incoming call.
And look at the time. What time is that?
That one's at 10:24,
All right.
22:24 hours.
Now, there's another call that's at 22, what from that?
The one below it,
Yes.
sir, it's at 22:25.
All right, and then what's the duration of the call above it? 32 seconds.
Yes, sir, it is.
And then the one below it is 28 seconds.
Yes, sir, it is.
Now, does that not seem to be working simultaneously?
Yes, sir, I see where you're going. I mean, there's a 2-second gap. Is that what you're referring to?
Of a call
Of
coming from
the
the same
overlay?
number,
Yes,
right? All right. Let's go down mid-page. Now, let's say Merrill Hampton again, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, that number is coming, what time is that call going into Billy?
The two incoming calls are, you have duplicate records there, it would appear, based on the fact that they're at the exact same time.
And it's at, what sector are they coming from?
So again, the 106, the first one actually, sir, comes from the 249, and the second one comes from 106.
Now you got calls coming in at the same time from two different sectors, right?
Yes, sir.
And,
That's what
but
that
you weren't,
shows.
now, let me say this, you were working dope cases back then, right?
Yes, sir, I was working narcotics.
So I know this would have jumped off the page at you because you were an expert. Now, but it wasn't your fault not going deeper into this back then, right?
I wasn't asked to do that in
To do it.
2010. yes, sir.
Let's turn the pages up. Yeah. Let's go one page. Turn it over, because they're not numbered, and I apologize, but this is the record. Or we just give only one page. Let's go down again. You see the row numbers, I think about 7 or 8 rows down.
What date and time are we referring to?
We're talking about, I think, 7/6/2010, military time 22/14, 10/14 or so. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Go 2, 4, 6. I got it. Not counting it quite right, but I think it's 8 or 9 down.
Yes, sir. I see the call at 22:14 hours.
All right. And then you have one at 22:15, right?
Yes, sir, we do.
Same duration, but those are from the same sector this time, correct?
Yes, sir, they are.
All right, now let's turn to the next page. Yeah, let's go to July 7th, 2010, down to 2041-04 and 2041-04 once again. See where we are?
Yes, sir, I do.
Everybody following up? All right. Can you read that time for me?
Yes, sir. Again, it's a duplicate call showing at 20:41, no 4 hours.
All right. Now, each one that we've read thus far, and if you don't agree, you can look at different pages, but they seem to be incoming to Billy, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's go over a page to 7/8/2010. Looks like midnight on the 8th of July. Now there only appears to be one call that time, correct?
Yes, sir. There's an incoming at 0009 hours.
All right. And that's from what sector?
It's the same tower, sir.
All right. Now let's go down to where it's 12:09. That's midday, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And there's a call at 12:09:57 for 35 seconds. I mean, it's unanswered, right?
It just shows the duration, 35 seconds. Yes, sir.
And then one for 33 seconds, right?
Yes.
All right. And then if you go down again a few lines, what time is the next call from Merle Hampton? Do you see that?
Talking about 7/8 at 19:01.
Yes.
Yes, sir. There's a call at 19:01.
And what time would that be? Regular time?
7:01 p.m.
Okay. And that call also was not answered, correct?
It just shows a duration of 43 seconds. I can't testify if it was answered or not.
I got you.
Yes, sir.
You got two calls that same way. One is 43 seconds, one is 14 seconds, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then we go down a line, skip a line. Merle Hampton, again, what time is that?
This is an outgoing call at night. You're talking about the 1904? Or are you going
Correct.
down?
The
1904. It's an outgoing call for 48 seconds.
All right, and there's another one, right?
Yes, sir. There is another one. Again, it's showing you duplicate calls.
I got you. Now we go down to the next page. Turn the next page over, please. Now you see another incoming, correct? It's 7/09/2010 at 09/26/34.
Yes, sir. We do.
Like 9 in the morning.
Yes, sir.
And that one is a 36-second call, correct?
Yes, sir. It is.
And then next to that is an actual outgoing for 4 minutes and 7 seconds. All right?
Okay, hold on. You're talking about 9:26?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
No, I think it's 10/20/48.
So 10:20:48. Yes, sir. There's a duplicate call again that shows 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
Did you look at any of Jimmy Martin's records or statements or hear any of his statements at all?
Your statements? No,
Yes.
sir.
Any recordings?
I heard some of his recordings from 2012.
Okay.
Just during the course of the investigation.
During the course of it, from your recollection, do you remember him talking about coming to Memphis and Sherra giving him Billy's car?
No, sir. I don't know.
You don't remember any of that?
No, I was not part of all that.
I got you. Let's turn again. And we go to 7/9/2010. You see there's another 29-second call and then a 26-second call during a 10 o'clock hour, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, just jury will have the benefit of looking at this later. Let's jump to the night in question, or to the day in question, 7/18/2010. All right. At 14:03. What time is 14:03?
It'll be 2:03 in the afternoon.
All right. You have an incoming call. You see that?
Yes, sir. I do.
And that incoming call is at what time from Edna J? And let's go above Merle Hampton. Edna J. Do you know who Edna J is supposed to be?
I know based on the phone information that Sherra Wright had Jimmy Martin's name and her phone is Edna J.
All right,
So, yes, sir.
okay. Edna J calls Billy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's what the record showed.
Now, this time, when Billy, I guess, return called or tried to call or what have you, the next line, the outgoing call, where does it end up answered?
It's an outgoing call to the 901-515-7714, which they have listed here as the Morel Hampton.
All right, Earl Hampton, and that call actually lasts for how long?
The one after it lasts for 6 minutes and 26 seconds.
Now, do you see the sector on that?
Shows Tower 109.
And that would be in the Memphis area, right?
Yes, sir.
And so we know at 101 or at that 1403 hour, 101 is where?
I'd have to look at I don't call it.
You-
I'm sure it's in Memphis. I'd
It's
have
in
to
the
look.
Memphis area.
Yes, sir. I would have to say it's in the Memphis area.
Right, and then when Billy responds to the call, it still gets answered in the Memphis sector, 109, right? Right below it,
Yes,
for
sir.
6 minutes, it's conversation. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then we go down on that same day, 7/18. This is the daytime before Mr. Wright is killed, right?
Yes, sir. It is the day before.
You got a number of calls that are going to Billy from Edna J, correct?
There's calls listed at 16:53 hours for Edna J. There's a call at 16:55. Yes, sir. There's several calls.
And those sectors are Memphis sectors,
They're Memphis Towers. Yes, sir. That's how I would refer to them.
all right? Now, let's go a page over. At 7:19, you have 2 incoming calls. If you go to you have 3 in a row, right?
Yep.
One is from Batesville, correct?
Just baseball payphone.
All right, and I'm pretty sure the Batesville payphone doesn't have a chip or anything in it. Straight payphone back in 2010. I don't see any payphones much now, but
I would assume that, yes, sir.
all right. And that seems to be a 31-second call, correct?
You're talking at 7:19 and 002 hours.
Correct. Is that 12:02 in the morning?
Yes, sir. It is.
And
It's a 31-second call.
okay. And then you have another call. What's the next time that's listed on the line below?
It's 001215. That one. That's one you referred to.
Right.
Edna J. Yes, sir.
And then you have another call from this Merle Hampton number, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's
14 minutes after midnight.
That's how many minutes?
14 minutes after midnight.
Now, you said you didn't listen to Jimmy Martin's information previously, correct? You didn't listen to it or remember it, or did you listen to it?
It was played. I mean, during the investigation, we listened to it, but it was not something that I was asked to analyze or look at or go to and write a report on. No, sir. I don't know all the exact details of what was said in the email.
Back in those days, in the 2010s, or even in the 2012, you weren't doing the forensic analysis, correct?
In 2010, I was
Yes.
I was assigned to the undercover unit. And I would do at the undercover unit. I did cell phone records, and also I was more of an analyst for them.
Now, if you did cell phone records and things like that in the past, and you know some of this stuff you got interested in back when you were doing that with the undercover unit, you knew back then people would change cell phones and chips and things like that all the time, right?
People can, yes, sir.
And did you know that Edna J, while he's talking to Memphis Police Department, indicates that back in the day when he got caught in his first murder, because of the phone. So I knew about phones, is what he said. That's a person that knows phone technology, according to him. Would you not say that?
Your Honor, I don't think this is the appropriate witness for this question.
I'm straight.
To the hearsay and everything else.
And he cannot testify to what another person might think was error, with sustained objection.
Yes, sir.
you're an expert, right? So I'll just hypothetical. You talked before about whether or not Mr. Hagerman or I were in, if Hagerman was in my restaurant in Batesville, right? Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And I gave him my phone chip, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now let's make it even more complicated. Let's say that I, in planning to do a murder, tell you, my other buddy, hey man, call this number from this cell phone for me. If he ain't answering. You calling from Batesville, right?
You're asking me if I'm calling for Batesville?
I mean, I'm just saying, if I ask you to call a number for me in Batesville, you can call a number for me in Batesville and I'd be sitting dead square in the middle of Memphis, can you not?
We only can testify to the records. The records, if you're referring to Mr. Martin, have that the phone itself, the device connected to towers in Batesville. As far as who's on the other end of that device, I can't testify to that.
Right, and you also can't testify who's in the field killing Lorenzen Wright in Memphis, can you?
No, sir, I cannot.
All right, and as it relates back to Batesville, what I'm saying is in your record, you made mention of there being a call from a Batesville payphone. I thought if you didn't, I'll move on.
Oh, no, sir, I did.
All right, and you're not saying that because that phone call was made from a payphone in Batesville, that this man or woman or whomever would have made it would have in fact been Jimmy Martin. You're not saying that, are you?
No, sir, I can't. I can't testify to that.
And because his phone is moving up a highway to Sardis or comes to rest in Sardis, you're not saying that Jimmy Martin is holding that phone in Sardis, are you?
I can't testify to that, no, sir.
And you never at any point in time did any kind of research or made note or even mentioned Merle Hampton and the calls from Merle Hampton yesterday, did you?
No, sir.
In fact, we're going to get into your report in a moment. Merle Hampton pops out in the middle of your report, doesn't it?
Yeah, the name's in there.
Right. What about Augusto Julioso or something along those lines? It was a name, Augusto, that stuck out. I like the name. I don't have it in front of me right now. But did you do research on the phone, that phone number?
No, sir, I did not.
Now, if you didn't listen to the tape, you wouldn't know this. So, how many people were questioned regarding this case? Do you know? Over.
I do not know.
Jack, this isn't the appropriate way.
I can. May I respond, Your Honor? I can respond to an objection.
No, if it's within his knowledge, you may certainly ask the question, Ms. Perry, but he's tendered as an expert in phone records and cell phone extrapolations and the investigation as to who may have been questioned, how many people may have been investigated. I don't know if he knows the answer. If he knows the answer, he may certainly answer it, but I think he started to say he didn't know. Yes, sir.
On the report and the information from 2010, you said that you could have, if you were working back in 2010, made a request for the extrapolation data from different places, right? Including Walnut, the lake in Walnut. Did you have any information to go by in 2016 regarding any phones bouncing off of that particular tower?
No, sir.
Did you, based on your report from 2016, have any data regarding any other addresses that Billy Turner would have been in on the night of July 18, 2010? Yesterday, when you were testifying, you turned and said Billy Martin was at Sherra's house. Remember that?
Yes.
And you're not basing that on information provided to you from anybody at the DA's office or the police department, any kind of calls that you heard where Sherra is talking to Billy in her house, right? You don't have any videos of Billy walking around the backyard or anything like that, do you?
No, sir, I do not.
You have a photo of Billy being in that house.
No, sir, I do not.
So you don't know, in fact, whether or not Billy was in that house at all, do you?
No, sir, I can only testify that what the records indicate.
We're gonna get into that in a minute, but you don't have any data whatsoever that you, as an expert, can rely on when you make the statement, Billy's in Sherra's house. That's not a statement that you can testify to, right?
Correct.
All right, and so you don't know that, in other words.
Oh, no, sir. We can place the device in that area.
How many houses are in that area?
I don't know the number. It's a neighborhood.
100, 200 houses, you think? Probably in that area.
It's be several.
So
you know, how many, and I'm not talking about necessarily on July 18th, but you testified also about houses in that particular sector and a July 21st time frame where Edmonds J's number appears to be in a sector in Collierville, right?
Yes, sir.
And do you realize, as a part of your investigation, do you know that Billy Turner was operating a lawn service during that time?
I'd heard that, yes, sir.
And having known that, and knowing that Cheryl lived in a neighborhood, if it's 1 o'clock in the daytime, Billy could be at a number of houses in that neighborhood, right?
I can't testify to that.
Can you testify where Billy grew up?
No, sir.
Can you testify about a neighborhood called Starlight?
No, sir.
Can you testify about the neighborhood that was east of that sector that Cheryl's house was at the bottom of, that seemed to be, I think, at the intersection of where 72, well, below Poplar is 72 at some point, but in that neighborhood in Collierville that you drew the second sector in the eastern portion of that. Do you remember, did you do any information regarding that neighborhood?
No, sir, I was not asked to do that.
I think it's a true question. Pause.
Jury suspend break. Ladies and gentlemen, remember court's instruction, not discuss case with anyone or amongst yourselves. We'll take recess for a few minutes, let me know when you're ready to resume, and you can call Deputy Smith, please. Sorry, we have to step down from the witness stand. You cannot discuss your testimony with anyone on the break, and we'll resume it shortly, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. For the record, this question from the jury was in need of a break, Mr. Smith. So the court will stand in recess for a few minutes. Clear the courtroom, please.
Hey, everybody. What did I miss so far?
Can you let the dog out when you get a chance, please?
So it looks like I haven't missed a whole lot. All right. All right. Yeah, I literally just got chugging through stuff. So I just literally just got back from court. Yes, I'll be talking about that. I have a guy who actually have a case for a guy who is pending appeal right now on his conviction, and we're challenging the whole conviction. And the judge granted his appeal, gave him appeal bond. But generally speaking, you don't get that. That's a very rare thing. I think I mentioned that before. So I'm surprised he got it in this case. It definitely is, helps who he knows. And let's face it, it's the state of Chicago. I mean, state of Illinois. So it could easily be a Chicago problem. If it's really going to be on a break like this, you guys want to go to Chandler Halderson and do his sentencing? Just let me know. I got to take the dogs out and get some stuff squared away, but I will do that if that's going to be the situation. Yeah, it's at 2:30. Oh yeah, I forgot it's 1:30 Wisconsin time, so 2:30 here. Yeah, so I will work on that. So I'm going to take a break real quick, guys, and be back. I think it wasn't a good lawyer. You had people make phone calls on his behalf. That's probably what happened. All right, so yeah, if they're not done with this, we'll figure out something. Maybe I'll pause the stream and then we'll come back to the other trial. How does that sound? I'm not really sure. We can take a look. Yeah, I know. I know it's not until 2:30, but so it's just been like the 13 of you guys in here. Or did we get more people in while the trial was actually running? Holy shit! 714 subs. God damn! You guys went buck wild today. Holy cow! So, yeah, whoever subbed today, thank you. That's pretty cool. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I gotta sort some things out, and I'll be back on in a little bit. Well, guys, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. So yeah, warning got all sorted out. So defense tried to introduce a phone log. I didn't have evidence yet. Okay. Did I take it they didn't score a home run on anything, did they? Not much happened between the breaks. Okay. So I assume the defense was not as impactful as they were probably hoping. So what do you guys think so far? The case looking pretty bad for Billy Ray. I assume he might be having a rough time from what we listened to yesterday. Mhm. So I better put up what my schedule is going to be for tonight. I just put up a little bit of a list of things I'm going to talk about, guys. Probably going to cover, obviously, Jussie. Well, remember, Matthew, it's still not their case, so that big might be happening later in their case. But tonight we'll talk about Jussie. Tonight we'll talk about Gabby Petito a little bit. I know that's more of a civil thing, but I think it does bring up some great points. As far as what's in Ukraine, I don't know if you guys are on different websites or forums talking about all the people going to fight, which I think is really a bad idea. Don't go fight in Ukraine. A couple of them are, basically like people off Reddit, and I think they committed war crimes. So we could talk about that, and they admit to doing it on video. So it's very interesting. And then the other one is going to talk about this attorney out of Kentucky who looks like they had a bad day during their when they had to do a drug test. And we'll also probably just recap Crystal Daniels briefly because I know not everybody's probably been in here the past couple of days. So yeah. Also, if you're new here, welcome. Looks like there's a new name or two that I don't recognize. DiPi or DB. Welcome. So if you like it, please like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. I will abandon Long Crime Stream when the other ones come back, but I left this one on because it was available and they were on right that second. So I took advantage of that one for our benefit. But we'll dump theirs once it's time. If there's anything else you guys think you might want to include tonight, I put it up on the community board. So you guys want to add other stuff. Oh, someone brought up the will the police ever release his notebook? Maybe at some point, but probably not anytime soon. Well, they had to. Matthew, long crimes acted against him. They had nothing. They knew that. That's why they ended up that issue of like, well, we can work with you, and they get all these threats and then they back down like that. The way you start out with those things, if you're not sure, it's like, look, can you work with us on this, and then go from there. But to come out swinging like that and then back down, it's a pussy way of doing things. So I doubt that in-house counsel cares, but I mean, he just made long crime look like made him look like bitches. Will I discuss Roe versus Wade in Supreme Court? I just go piss on a power line while I'm at it. Give me the same result. You're a funny guy though, 4M. I mean, at some point we can probably talk about it, like talk about what happened or something. But like, there's not a whole lot to. Otherwise, if that's what you're getting at. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I guess he figured out, or somebody told him somebody else was watching the trial. So, I mean, it's, like I said, it's kind of cool when everybody showed up, and I appreciate them all who did. But no, I hadn't watched it. Somebody pulls it up, and it's us, so I know what we look like. I mean, so I hope he wasn't making fun of me. Other than that, I'm fine with it. But wow, like, what are they on break for? Did someone die? Oh, I'm a great grandma. Well, congratulations. No, for him, I will talk about it. I was kind of just making a joke. I mean, we can discuss it at some point. I mean, I think at some point it might make a venture into some of the more constitutional law areas, and we could talk about that. Um, yes, that was the most wholesome rate ever. Lunch until 2:30. Jesus, like, are they getting like a lobster lunch or what? Well, wow. Well, very generous of that judge. So, So just seeing what's going on, trying to catch up on what you guys talked through. Well, you guys are talking a lot about recipes. Well, you know what? I'm gonna finish up my lunch then, and we'll talk about some stuff until the 2:30 break. And at 2:30, it sounds like Chandler starts. So we'll just go straight into Chandler. But I'm gonna eat my lunch real quick, and then we can watch some videos and bullshit a little bit.
Parties are present. Both sides ready to proceed.
All right, guys.
Sergeant Evans. Ask Sergeant Evans to step back in the courtroom, please.
Oh wow, that's like perfect timing on my part. Holy shit. I'm like the judge speaker. Got rid of law and crime while we're at it too. Oh yeah, judge recognizes. That's right. That's right, Judge Fuddlestein. You recognize.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Everyone can be seated. Sergeant Evans, come forward, please, sir. Sergeant Evans was sworn in yesterday, swore in again today. You can resume your seat on the witness stand. You're still under oath to testify truthfully, sir. See that document that you're looking at before the line to bring Cecilia?
Yes, sir, it is.
Ms. Perry, you may proceed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sergeant Evans, you didn't talk to anybody about your testimony or anything at lunchtime, did you? All right. And I was asking you a question regarding that, the area or the sector that would be east of where Sherra Wright's sector was, where I think you in your, and I can go to your chart in a minute. But it's called an area called Starlight in Collierville. I asked you if you're familiar with the Starlight neighborhood in Collierville.
No, sir, I'm not.
Yesterday, you had I think a part of your report reflected some Facebook business records.
Yes, sir, it did.
And were you the person that made the request for those records?
No, sir, I was not.
Did you receive a full dose of those records or just a little bit of it?
No, sir, I received a zip file and a PDF. So I typically with the zip file and the PDF, that would be the entirety of what was sent from Facebook.
And you realized that on yesterday, I think there were, if I may approach you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As a part of your presentation, I think you made reference to some Facebook messages that you received.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you received those back in what year?
Oh, I received those last week, sir.
Okay, so you just got the 2,000 page zip file,
Yes, sir.
but you did get all 2,000 pages?
I believe so, sir. I didn't count them, but I got the entire zip folder.
Did those reflect Jimmy Martin's Facebook records?
Yes, sir, they did.
Also, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. Uh-oh. Somebody's talking. Matthew takes judicial notice. God, you think I'm paying you to flatter me like that?
When you received that zip file, did you go all the way through that zip file?
That's right, not.
All right, and so you wouldn't be familiar with anybody named Tiffany Antoinette in that file?
No, sir.
Were you
That's-
asked to look at page 2173 of the file?
No, sir, I was not.
If there were any pages that made reference to going to Atlanta, that wouldn't have stuck out in your mind.
I wasn't asked to look for it. If I would have been asked to look for it, I would have searched for that and pulled it out or looked at the actual messages.
All right. Likewise, did you look at a page 2108?
Not that I can recall. No,
All right. And with the name Janet Stewart Twilley from the Facebook records of Jimmy Martin, would that make any difference one way or the other?
no, sir.
All right.
Janet Stewart Twilley, I know her.
Were
I
you
went to high school with her.
given reference to an address, 494 South
Just
Main
kidding.
in Collierville?
In reference to the record, to these records?
No, not Facebook. We're off Facebook.
Okay,
now.
we're done with that.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
In reference to the investigation, did anybody tell you from your MPD office or the DA's office regarding the record, look into Street 494 South Main extended in Collierville?
No, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Now, you are familiar with that document.
I've never seen it before, no, sir, but I can go through it.
You'll look through it. I won't ask you a question until you've had a chance. Can you look for Edna J. to Sherra in that sequence of documents?
Is there a specific page you want me to look at, or is there, I'm not sure where you want me to
If I can
go.
get it back from you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It might be easier.
That's fine. For the sake of the record, I'm referencing Exhibit 58.
Yes, sir.
All right. I should have started off with page 1. I thought that you.
Yes, sir.
Is it on page 1?
It's on page 1. What I'm,
What's your approach?
okay, thank you.
Approach.
I appreciate it. I didn't want-
Sergeant Evans, exactly what they
Disrespect
want to look at.
You
Yes,
see
sir.
Page 1.
I do.
All right, and who is Etna J again?
Edna J was saved in Sherra Wright's phone as Jimmy Martin, or it's Jimmy Martin goes by that. She had him in her contacts as Edna J.
Okay, and yesterday, the same way that you were reading the text interchange,
Yes, sir.
can you read that text interchange, please?
So this would be to Edna J at 662-650-0739. The date's July 15, 2010. The first message is going to be at 6:44 p.m. It's UTC -5, and the message reads K.
Okay. Go
Go
down
on.
to the next line.
So the next message is going to be the same date. It's going to be from Edna J. So now we're going answering back, and it's going to be at 6:45 and 23 seconds, so it's less than a minute, and it says same place.
All right.
Below that, it's going to be now going to Edna J. again on the 15th at 6:45, and the message reads 8:15. Below that, it looks like almost the exact same, to again, so it's going to Edna J, and it could be a duplicate because it's the same exact, it says 8:15, it's the exact same time.
All right. Next line.
The next line would be from Edna J on the 15th, again of 2010 at 6:54, so you're looking at 9 minutes later, and it's cool is the word.
All right. Next line.
That's going to, again, be more of a duplicate record.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily a duplicate text, but it's a duplicate record. Your next is going to be 2 Edna J on the 15th at 7:32 12 seconds p.m. and it says 8:30. Again, we have another duplicate below that. And then again, it's going to be 2 Edna J.
They just started like
7:15
5 minutes ago, guys.
8:32, so we're looking at an hour later, 8:50 or 8:50.
It appears at this point that the person is changing the time. In other words, trying to meet that person at a certain destination and saying,
Yes, sir. They're saying same place, and they give 2 different times or 3 different times: 8:15, 8:30, 8:50.
next line.
You got 2 Edna J again on the 15th at 9:35, and it says, "Been here for 40 minutes."
Now, who is that sent from?
That is 2 Edna J. This record doesn't indicate. It just shows Edna J's phone number,
All right.
so I don't see the other number.
Okay. Look at the column. Do you see to your right where it's showing whose cell phone this
It's
is?
Jimmy Martin text messages.
All right. And it's to whom?
Well, all it says here. I'm not.
No.
Yes, I'm just reading what's on the paper.
It says Jimmy Martin's
yeah,
text
Jimmy-
messages and Edna J.
Yep.
Correct. All right. And Edna J is stored in whose phone as Edna J?
Sheriff's phone.
Okay. And so if that is stored in Sheriff's phone as Edna J,
So these are pulled from. These are pulled from her phone.
from Sheriff's phone. And Sheriff down there says what to Edna J?
At 9:35, it says, "Been here for 40 minutes." And then he replies back to her at 9:36 or a minute later, "What you in?" And then she replies back to him, "Van." And then he replies back to her at 9:40, "All right."
In the extraction reports that you have gone through before and what you were reading yesterday, you did have one text message that you said at some point during the early morning hours of July 19th, where Sherra texted Billy, "Boy, you owe me," or something along those lines. "You owe me my commission because I'm giving Lorenzen your cards." I'm summarizing.
Yes, sir.
But you remember a text message exchange such as that,
Yes, sir. It was on July 18th. It was the night before.
July 18th. But you never had an exchange where Sherra was supposed to be meeting Billy or describing a place or time or anything like that, do you?
No, sir. Those messages were not there.
Now, you are not familiar with you didn't go through all the Facebook messages.
No, sir, I did not.
And that's not your job to do. Like, it's my job. 2,300 some odd pages of Facebook messages, right? One saying that they're supposed to be going to Atlanta on July 15th, possibly mean he's going to Atlanta to meet with Sherra at that time, correct?
I think this is not the appropriate witness again. We can approach or.
If the question is, and I believe Sergeant Evans has testified that he did not review all the records, and if you're asking him, Mr. Perry, what those messages could have meant, he can't answer that because you're asking him to speculate as to something that he says he has not read, has not seen. So it's a sustained objection because he can't speculate something.
It's a fair objection.
On that same point, just like you just said, you can't testify as to where somebody's driving and all those types of things, right?
No, sir, I can't. As far as based on records?
Yeah.
Yes, no, sir.
And just like we talked about earlier, you can't speculate as to where Billy might have been at a certain date or time or any of that, can you?
All I could testify to is the
What you
records.
have.
Yeah, she only focused on one thing, and everything is organic, and.
Going back to yesterday, jury can all see. Okay. Going back to yesterday, you did this PowerPoint, and you made it available the day before yesterday, correct?
That's correct.
And we'll turn to the next page of it. Well, the first page that has cell phone records, cell phone exams, and Facebook records. Now, a few moments ago when I was asking you about Facebook records, I asked you about the full volume of Facebook records. You were provided them in the zip drive. In other words, the zip drive had all 2,400 odd pages and supplements, right?
Yes, sir, it is.
But you only went to certain areas, correct?
Correct.
And this report would only reflect those certain areas, correct?
Yes, sir.
She's still relying on all of us. Do a lot of the work that you don't have to do.
We just got that.
All right.
Is that a pointer?
No, it's not a corner, it's a, it'll click me page to page. And it's about an 80% chance I'll mess this up too. So.
You may want to make it bigger if you want to. Slideshow.
No, I'm just gonna go to the next page. Which one goes?
You may want to,
Something to do with all the speakers.
you may want to make it a slideshow to make it bigger. So that-
Well, that's another issue with technology.
There you go.
And cell phone technology overview. We talked earlier about technology, et cetera. You're not able to testify as to the inner workings of those machines.
That's sir. You know.
And the tower is not in the center of the hexagon. Is that information provided by Cellbrite, or where do you get that information?
On the bottom right, PATC Tech. We've been through training with them, so
Right.
that's where that was pulled from.
And most of this technology, you receive the information from the companies and input it into a data system.
Yes, sir. We receive raw data from the cell carrier, and then we use a software tool.
And PAC Tech, that would be the software tool.
No, sir. PATC Tech does independent training on how to analyze cell phone records, how to read cell phone records, and so they go over the technology.
Okay. Cell phone technology, side load, rear load. Keep going through it.
Yes, sir.
That again is talking about the sectors, et cetera.
Yes, sir. The 3-sector deployment at the bottom and how there's overlay amongst the sectors so that we don't have drop calls.
And then that is how the sectors work in actuality, but to make it clean for presentation's sake, you sometimes can draw the sectors as close as you can to that with straight lines.
Yes, sir. You would make more of a cone shape to give a visualization of the direction of the antenna.
Now, is there a give and take, how many miles one way or the other that a person would be at a certain time when you're drawing those sectors and drawing the cones from those sectors?
The person or the tower?
Or the tower, rather.
Yes, sir. Every tower can be different. It can depend on things as the topography. It can depend on buildings. A tower that's in downtown Memphis that has big buildings around it's not going to go out as far as a tower that's out in the country or the interstate driving to Nashville.
Now, in that part of East Memphis / Germantown that we're talking about, there are not a lot of large Clark Tower and things like that in that area, correct?
No, sir. There's
Not a lot of super tall hotels or office buildings out in that area.
no, sir.
And that's what you were talking about just a second ago, population, terrain. We don't have valleys, mountains, anything like that.
No, sir.
And the number of towers. Is there anything that's less than you can now? We spoke yesterday about towers going towards Walnut, right?
Yes.
And you wouldn't expect the same number of towers necessarily driving down 72 than you would on Poplar in East Memphis.
No, sir. You would not.
And you would expect more in this area, in Memphis.
In a populated area, yes, sir.
Now, in your analysis, you didn't make the call, but would it have been in retrospect a good thing to have gotten records going back maybe 2 weeks prior to the date in question?
We would have gotten 36 months.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We would have gotten more records if we were doing this case today.
All right. And at that time, or what we have to depend on are sector records for 4 days, basically.
Yes, sir. We had Mr. Turner's records were for 30 days, so we had those 30 days. That's all we had to reference.
Did you, using those records for 30 days, did anybody run to Atlanta and talk to maybe the Atlanta Police Department or whatever county would make up that particular area that Mr. Wright lived in to see if there was ever a bounce in that sector?
I can't testify to that. I didn't do it. I don't know if they did or not.
Do you have anything in this report that reflects that you have, that data has been provided or gathered by the Memphis Police Department?
As far as going to Atlanta,
As far as any kind of record saying that Billy Turner would have been in that sector or that he would not have been in that sector that was close to Mr. Wright's home in Atlanta, Georgia.
I don't have records to detail that, no, sir.
C-Spire, Verizon, AT&T, each are 3 different providers, and each has different mechanisms by which you have to interpret the data that they gather regarding their phone usage. Correct. Matter of fact, when we talked yesterday, I asked you, just based off of the records that we received, AT&T is probably the easiest of the 3 to interpret, right?
It's just, they all provide the raw data in a different format. So AT&T provides it in a PDF and a text. They provide it broken down by voice, by data, and by SMS. So it's a little bit, we can go through it. Theirs is just a different method.
They provide a longitude, latitude on the actual form that you provided to the disc that I got. Did you get a disc from the DA's office, or did you provide the disc to the DA's office with the different, with Billy Turner, Jimmy Martin, and Sherra Wright's phone data?
I was provided that information.
So you wouldn't have gone back and looked back at the sectors or anything like that after getting the information from the DA's office?
Yes, so I mean, I looked at the records making this report. If that's what you're asking. Yes.
When were you provided the records?
These records were obtained in 2010. We've had, throughout the investigation, they've had these records since 16 or 17 is when they started getting Operation Rebound. And I was part of that operation. So as far as me particularly, I was provided all these records in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and as far as everything to make sure we had what we needed.
The full report that you went in and completed the other day.
Yes.
Back in 2016, that would have been around the time that you got certified to give the type of testimony that you're giving today, right?
That's for cell phones. For cell phone records, I started actually getting trained on that back in 2008.
Right. But for the actual cell phone, data usage, et cetera, I know about gathering, but I'm
Yes.
saying to give the type of expert testimony, it would have been simultaneous pretty much with Operation Rebound.
As far as for the physical phone, yes, the phone records, we had those throughout the case.
Right.
As far as just to double check that we had everything has been in the last several weeks. But yes, sir, we had access to those records in 16.
All right. For that July 15th date, did you check and see where Sherra Wright was?
No, sir, I was not asked to look at that.
Did you check to see where Jimmy Martin was on July 15th?
I was not asked to look at that.
And having read what you read earlier about them asking, where are you, and giving 30 minutes, et cetera, that would have been something worth at least looking into, do you not think?
If they had asked me to analyze it and map it out, we would have done that.
But you weren't.
No, sir, I was not.
And we talked earlier, you got the calls between Billy and Sherra Wright, 186. Now, that number does not reflect how many incoming versus outgoing.
It's just a total number.
And it also doesn't reflect how many times the numbers actually engaged into a conversation.
No, sir, it does not.
And likewise, Billy Turner and Jimmy Martin. Now, you can say from what you have provided as the data and what you've rendered as an opinion, that at least on that day in question, Jimmy Martin had initiated conversations with Billy Turner on the July 18th day, correct?
They call each other back and forth, yes, sir.
Now, did it appear that there might have been a missed call and then Billy Turner attempted to call? Do you know any of the background to any of that?
No, sir, I do not.
All right. Analysis report, the 7250 German Creek Park. You testified yesterday where that home would be in relation to a specific sector, right?
Judge is a smoker. Jesus.
Give analysis that during that evening that he had been in that sector, right?
Yes, sir.
And I thought you were clear on this, but I want to make sure. You never said that Billy Turner tried to cut his phone off and cut it back on or any of that, right?
Yes, sir.
It appeared that his phone stayed on the same way, right?
Yes, sir.
And we go to the cell phone map. And right here, 7/8, I'm in that weird area that my eyesight is failing me from this distance. And
That's okay.
and if it was a little bit closer, but I'm thinking that first line is Jimmy Martin, right? It has outgoing on your chart up there.
Yes, sir, it does. It's at 11 or 23:41 hours military time, 11:41 p.m. It's an outgoing call to Jimmy Martin.
Now, that's on July 18th.
That's on July 18th.
What actually earlier that day, was there not a call, or later that the 17th, was there not a call during the hours prior to then from Jimmy Martin to Billy Turner?
I'd have to refer back to the records if we want to look and see if they're there. Because I would, you want me to look at these?
Jury has it, they can look at it, but
Okay.
you can look at it if you like. I don't mind.
So you're asking about the 17th in the evening hours? Is that right?
Correct. All right. On the 18th, you have at 23:41:49.
Yes, sir.
All right. That would have been approximately 11 o'clock on the 18th.
Yes, sir.
But that's not the first phone call from July 18th.
No, sir. That's the end of the day.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, and I know that you're focusing on a particular time for the sake of your presentation, but that presentation does not reflect the fact that Jimmy Martin is attempting to contact Billy Turner during the early parts of the day.
Yes, sir. If you look at the date of July 18th at 14:03 hours or 2:03 p.m., there's an incoming call from Edna J., who we know as Jimmy Martin, to Mr. Turner.
Okay.
On the records.
And like I said, you don't have any of the background stuff about what's going on during the day or any of that.
No, sir.
All right. Let's go to the next. Now, you have a Billy Turner cell tower usage, July 18th, 2010. All right, to July 19th, 2010.
Yes, sir.
And you have what I'm looking at is some clearly defined sectors, right?
Yes, sir. The
And-
cell towers and the directions of the, yes, sir.
All right. And during that day, based off of the information that you have gathered and that you are interpreting for this jury, those sectors are the sectors that reflect the cell towers that Billy Turner used during the course of that day, right?
Yes, sir. In this slide particularly, you're looking at a call that was at 20:42 hours, I believe. That's going to be 8:42 p.m. on this 18th.
Right.
And the tower below that white bubble is an arrow pointing to the sector of that cell tower that was used or reflects in the records that was connected to.
And it reflects that it was connected to at a particular time, right?
Yes, sir.
But it also reflects on not that sector, but the sector that would be to the east of that.
I'm just showing that as reference. It was not connected there.
Okay.
We didn't individually map out each tower individual. So this is a reflection of the towers between that time frame of 2042 to 015. And then as we go through the slides, the arrow will point to the sector of the tower that it's connecting to for that call.
All right. Now you have a dot reflecting Sherra Wright's house,
Yes, sir, we do.
and you do that dot based on what?
So her address, we used her address to then do a Google search. From there, we were able to obtain the GPS coordinates. The GPS coordinates for her house was then put into the system, and that's how we were able to drop a pin essentially where that's at.
When you drop that pin at that particular house, that house is actually, I think, a little bit outside of that sector, is it not?
Well, so that sector, that's not a true representation like we talked about with the technology. That's to give a visual reference
Right.
to what direction it's going.
Okay.
I can't testify to you to the distance at which that sector would end. We would have to do additional testing that we didn't have access to then, and we can't do it now based on we can't go back 12 years. So all we can say is that cell tower, if you look at the kind of bubble to the right of the arrow, that's where the tower is located.
Right.
The sector is pointed in that direction based off the raw data from the cell phone carrier, and that's the direction at which the antenna was pointed, and that's where the phone connected.
Now, you said earlier that you do this, I mean, you prepare these presentations for the district attorney's office sometimes,
Yes, sir.
and this would not be your first time doing it.
I look at cell phone records pretty much every day, 5 days a week, for various homicide cases and violent crime cases throughout the city.
Right. And would you say that you prepared some probably 83, 84 reports?
Prepare a lot. I don't know the exact number.
About 83 or 84. Now, there are times that you give specific data, like in other words, if there's a homicide that happens at Sherra's house, you are able to say, Paul, this person definitely was right here at that particular time because of the data that you gathered. There are times that you do that, correct?
If you're referring to GPS data off of a phone, is
That
that what
you-
you're relating to?
What I'm referring to, there are times that you can tell that a person is in a particular sector.
Yes, sir. There's technology that they aid us in providing that information. As
Right.
far as provide us what area and what part of the sector they're in. Yes, sir.
Right. In other words, you have said before, this person is John Perry, was into it with Judge Coffey. John Perry was standing in front of Judge Coffey when he was shot by Judge Coffey. You're able to say that in cases and provide that information because you say that at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, these two people are definitely in this sector.
That would be more for phone analysis and then utilizing the GPS on a phone. I can't say that based off of a cell phone record, off of a sector in a tower.
Right. But you can definitely say that in cases, and you have said it.
In cases involving cell phones, yes, sir, we can say that.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go back. All right. The white bubble, what is that saying?
So this is now reflective of a call that was later. So this is a call at 20:54 hours. So on the same day, the 18th. And so now it's telling you that it's changed to the other side of that tower. So it's not showing on the sector that was the previous light. So it's showing on the antennas are facing the other direction.
Now, if I posit to you that is the starlight area that I was asking you about, is there any way that you would, or any reason that you'd have to say that's not starlight? Or we're commonly referred to as starlight.
I'm not sure where Starlight's at, sir. I can't testify to it. I don't know where on the map it would be.
Have you ever Googled 494 South Main Street starlight? Or,
No, sir. I have not. I wasn't asked to look into that, no, sir.
and you don't know whose home would be in that area or anything, but you do know that Billy's phone was used in that sector at some point.
Yes, sir. That's what the records indicate. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, yesterday you were clear when you talked to the jury about he was at Sheriff's house. So right now, I just want to be clear. You can't say he was at Sheriff's house.
No, sir. We can say that he was in that sector at that time of day. That's
Can
what
you
we
say how long he was in that sector?
We can only show, but based on the towers, no, sir, the duration of the calls.
Can you say if he was at a gas station in that sector?
I can't say that, no, sir.
Can you say if he stopped to get a Coca-Cola in that sector?
I don't know what he did in that sector, sir. No, sir.
And so you don't know that he's visiting Sheriff or Sheriff's neighbor or anybody in that sector, right?
No, sir. Based on the information we had, the records only reflect that he was using that side of the tower.
In that
at
sector.
time, in that sector.
Now, right here you have the 4 places that you're saying, I think right now I'm pointing at the calls in the middle, calls at 22:52.
Yes, sir.
Those were made where?
So all these calls at 22:52, 23:13, 23:43, and 23:47 were all in the tower that the arrow is pointing to. So the white bubble in the tower that it's pointing to, which is going to be closest to Mr. Turner's house, we have listed based on the subscriber information.
Did you see a name Raven Faulkner in those records at all?
Yes, sir, we did.
Do you know where Raven lives?
I do not.
You know Raven's relationship with Billy back then?
Yes, sir, I do not.
You don't know if she lives along 385 or it's a number of apartments out there, right?
There are apartments out there, yes, sir.
All right. You don't know if Raven lives in one of them or not, right?
I do not know.
Now I see two purple sectors, right?
Yes, sir.
And I see a dot above those sectors, homicide location.
Yes, sir.
Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to get to a slide where you give a clear sector where the 911 call was made, right?
Yes, sir.
For clarity's sake, you don't have any record saying that Billy Turner at any point in time was in that sector.
Which sector we're referring to? The one with the arrow? Yes, sir.
The one with the dot.
The dot.
Yes.
Again, all we can reference is that his cell phone connected to that cell tower that's right there below the blue arrow.
Where's
On the
below
right?
the blue arrow?
On the right side, the white bubble. The blue arrow pointing to the purple sector.
I understand that.
That's where the tower is located, right there in the middle of Windike Golf Course.
Yeah.
And then from there, that tower goes in that direction going north. And that's not a true representation of where the tower ends. The tower can go a little bit wider than that. The sector, we'd have to do a drive test to know that. We couldn't do that in 2016, 17, or now.
Right. Windike has a number of houses around the surrounding golf course, right?
Yes, sir, it does.
And also has to the east, I think 2 apartment complexes, correct?
I have to look at a map, but yes, sir, we can say
But
that.
you know, it's apartments in that area.
Yes, sir, there's apartments around there off Winchester.
And as I stated, from this particular map, unlike the cases where you can clearly say he's square in the middle of this sector, looking at this map, there's no way that you can say Billy Turner is at that homicide location. Yes or no? You were able to give me the answer yesterday pretty easily. The answer is a no, right?
Your Honor, I think he's allowed to answer the question, provide an explanation. Some sort of demand, yes or no, is inappropriate.
I thought that Your Honor gave me started talking to about giving an open-ended question to the lady day before yesterday.
I don't give any.
I gave a strong
Mr. Perry,
suggested answer.
Mr. Perry, there's been an objection. I'm going to rule on it. You cannot talk over me while I'm making a ruling, Mr. Perry.
I know.
The objection from the state is that you need to allow this witness to answer a question. You may ask closed-ended questions. If it can be answered yes or no, he'll answer yes or no, but you cannot demand an answer from a witness. The question is not evidence. The answer to the question is evidence. If you need to explain an answer, you may certainly explain an answer, but you cannot demand that he answer a question yes or no.
I can't ask a yes or no question then.
You can answer yes or no question. If you answer yes or no, you may do so, but you can't demand an answer from a witness.
All right, without demanding you, pick a line, yes or no. Is he definitively in that sector? Yes or no?
His cell phone connected to that tower that covers that area.
But he's not on that picture in that sector. The answer would be a no, would it not?
And again, you ask him a question that definitively, can you say whether or not Mr. Turner was there or not? He can't answer that question, Mr. Perry. He can told you the answer is that his cell phone was in the area. Please turn off all communication devices and cell phones.
Can I proceed, John?
Yes, sir.
All right. Lorenzen Wright, 911 call, cell tower map. Did you prepare that?
Yes, sir, I did.
The homicide location.
Yes, sir.
What sector is that?
We are looking here at his AT&T records. I'd have to refer back to those to tell you the exact sector. That's not the same as C-Spire, Sailor South. So the tower is actually north of the homicide scene, and the tower face would be going south. So that's the direction that it's going in.
And that south-facing cell phone sector
Yes, sir.
is clearly defined, is it not?
Yes, sir. But there again, I would say that in reference and understand that is not the end of the tower.
Right.
That is only a representation of the direction at which that antenna and that face of that tower is going.
Right.
And so that is not the end of it, but that's the direction it's going in. Yes, sir.
All right. And there's an overlapping area.
Yes, sir, there is.
What's that overlapping area?
So the second tower is the ending call, starting and ending. So the 911 call utilized two different cell towers to start and end. And so the second tower, or the ending tower, is going to be south of the homicide scene and facing back east. And that overlapping area is where those two towers overlap.
Billy Turner's cell phone never reached that overlapping area at all, did it?
I can't testify to that because, again, we don't know the exact range of that tower.
But according to what you can testify to, you don't have anything that says that it was. Correct?
All I can say is that it was in that area using that tower. Yes, so that's all I can say.
Wait a minute.
Not those towers. If you go to the next one, his ceasefire tower. It was at Windike.
But he was not in that. He was not, and I want to be clear, this defined area where you have Lorenzen Wright's body, he was not in that area. You don't have anything that suggests that his phone used that tower.
It would never use the same tower as AT&T, if that's what you're referring to.
I'm saying that you don't have any suggestion that it was using the ceasefire tower in that area either. You don't have anything overlapping that they just like when I was talking earlier, where you say the person is on this scene and I can put them on the scene. There's nothing from that phone record that you have that puts them on that scene.
Going back to that, we'll go back to it. It's okay. When you're referring to that, it's more, we would extract an iPhone of a suspect. We would then pull the GPS. The GPS would then put us on an actual scene. As far as cell phone records, what we have here is the voice calls. We can only put a person, or not even a person, we can only put a device using a tower in a sector, in an area. I can't tell you based off of CDR, call detail records, that my phone is exactly right here. Now that would have to be a GPS hit, which is a totally different record than a call record from a carrier. And in this instance, all we have to go by were the call records from the carrier that gives us the address of the tower. It gives us a sector of a tower. It gives us the direction of that sector. And that's what we have to go with.
So in essence, without the GPS record, you don't have him on that side, right?
Without I don't have a GPS record of him on that site.
That's what I'm saying. You don't have a GPS record of him on that side.
No, sir, I do not.
And you don't have any science to a reasonable degree of your analytical skills at the time that you were analyzing this, either 6 years ago or today, that puts him on that scene.
I'll reference back to the records. All we can say is the device connected to a tower that had the signal going in that direction.
Yeah.
And we don't know the distance of that tower because we weren't able to obtain it back then or now.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you don't. We'll move on. All right. In these photos where you have the sector usage again, purple seems to be kind of far from green up there now, right?
Yes.
All right. And purple over to the east never overlaps with green. It overlaps with an intersecting overlap, but it never definitively overlaps with the green where Lorenzen Wright's body was found. Is that correct?
Again, for this representation, this is not a true, the end of that cone, where the white bubble is, that's with the arrow pointing to it, the end of that cone is not the end of that tower. So, sir, I can't testify that tower could go out for another half a mile. We would have had to have done a drive test to gather exactly the distance. So I can't testify that it stops there and that it never goes there.
Right.
All I can tell you is that it's pointed in that direction, and that direction of the antenna is where it's headed. That's the area that it could be in. But I don't know the distance of when that cone stops. That's just for representation for the jury.
All right. Since we're talking
Guys, we're about to switch over to Chandler Halderson. Give me a second.
Wright's body was found, you can't say it's 40%, okay?
What we could say is that below where the arrow is on the white bubble, there's a cell tower. That cell tower face and the antenna is pointing north. Within that area, and there could be, when we talked about the side lobe and the rear lobe, and we were able to show that it goes over, that tower is going to have some side lobe, some rear lobe, some back lobe. So that phone can be north of it. It can be, it's utilizing that tower going north, and it's somewhere in that area. That's all we can testify to. I can't give you a percentage.
Right, that's what I wanted.
I can't give you a
You
percentage.
cannot give a percentage,
No,
right?
sir, I cannot give you a
And you
percentage.
definitely cannot give a certainty, right?
I can't give you a percentage. I can't do that.
Right. So you cannot tell us that that sector that Billy Turner used was in any way near or close enough to have been a part of a homicide scene. You can't testify to that.
We can't testify. I can't testify to how far out the tower goes. No, sir.
No, I didn't ask you about how far the tower goes. I said you cannot testify as to whether or not Billy Turner was on that scene or anywhere near that scene.
We can listen to an entirely different question than we just asked.
It is a different question, and he can't.
Okay, guys, I'm going to switch it over. Give me 1 second here. You guys ready? Because I'm going to do the thing I did normally before we get out and go in.